Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Oh, left. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. Only the finest special guest, Steve. And I'm not even that special of a guest.
You are the man of the hour.
Me, the man of the hour. Yes. I believe Paisley said Steve is the man of the hour.
No. She's paid to say that. After I understand that you guys knocked it out of the park on trivia night, I congratulate you on that.
It was not the best trivia night we've had. We definitely had some better ones. It came, I believe, 5th place, 6th place. Not a great performance, not a great showing. Had some tough questions, tough rounds. Second guessed ourselves a lot. Got burnt by Mariah Carey more than once. So it was tough.
Really?
We did, yes. It was not great.
All you have to know with her is All I Want for Christmas. All right? Which, by the way, has risen the last couple of years back to the top of the charts in popularity.
Well, did you know Mariah Carey is has the most or second most number one hits on the Hot 100 Billboard charts of all time? She's second only to Michael Jackson.
Did you know why Penn State's playing December 16th at Madison Square Garden and not the original date, the 17th?
Why?
Mariah Carey is performing on the 17th at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. Mariah Carey matters more. And I have to be honest, I kind of agree.
Oh, she'll sell the place out.
Oh, definitely.
Because it's a week before Christmas, and all they want for Christmas is to hear Mariah Carey.
I don't disagree with that. Would you?
I'll be out of town because the game's over. Wherever.
I got things to do and places to be.
I might look at a little bit of St. John's with Rick Pitino and Keith Ergo's Fordham team for about a half, but I think the bus will leave.
Yes. You don't want to get left behind, stranded in New York City like Kevin McAllister once did.
And New York's a little different now than it was the last time I was there, so we'll leave it at that. Okay. So here we are, and another NFL weekend is coming up.
That it is.
Tonight's game is...
it's going to be a blowout in a nice way.
I don't know how inspiring a Broncos-Chiefs game happens to be. So I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch the Phillies and the Braves. We have now watched two teams with better than 100 wins get eliminated in sweeps.
That we have.
The third team with over 100 wins is on the verge of being knocked out. The Dodgers won 101 games this year. The Arizona Diamondbacks won 84. And this is the second straight year this has happened to the Dodgers. The Padres got them last year. You now have to ask questions about, and I do say this all the time. So to me, the key is to get into the tournament. Once you're in the tournament, you're in. But when you watch these teams play, they're not as sharp as they were during the regular season. Baseball is a bit different. I know, and it's interesting, it was Josh Nelson who's in charge of sports performance at Penn State. Nellie and I were talking about this yesterday, and he said he had a conversation with James Franklin about it, about the baseball part and time off. And I said, Nellie, we had Scott Lauber on the podcast yesterday. So I had Scott Lauber from the Philadelphia Inquirer on. And he brought up something interesting in that last year the Braves gave their players some time off and then worked out later in the week, and then, of course, lost in 4 games to the Phillies. 4 games or 3, whatever it was. I think they got swept, whatever. So this year they changed up. They gave them Monday off, but then they would work out against their minor leaguers, simulated games. They would play at 6 o'clock in the evening because that was the time that the games were going to take place. Now, tonight's game's been moved back, by the way. It's been moved to 8 o'clock because the Dodgers D-backs cleared the lane for them. But he said, so they totally changed, and it's still not working. a lot of this is matchups. The Phillies are a bad matchup for them in a short series. Not over the long haul. Over the long haul, the Braves are a deeper lineup. You get different starting pitching matchups. You can't set it up the way you can set it up. So you're sitting there in Game 2, and it's Zach Wheeler. Now, that turned out the game they won. Game 3, you've got Aaron Nola. The Phillies' top 2 pitchers are sitting right there in those back-to-back games. Your top pitcher did pitch Game 1, didn't win. But after that, your depth comes into play. Charlie Morton is out of this series. So they don't have Charlie Morton starting in Game 3 last night. He wasn't available. So they have had to scramble a little bit. But they're not a good matchup. Now, why Arizona beat the Dodgers? All I can say is they've been playing, didn't stop playing, and sometimes when you have to fight hard to get into the playoffs, which Arizona did, that means you have to win a number of games down the stretch to do it. They then, by getting the first game in Milwaukee, that probably jump-started their confidence beyond words, because then they go out and they ended up sweeping them 2 straight.
They're playing with house money.
Right? And then they go play the Dodgers. Okay. Well, that pitching staff for the D-backs gave up a total of 6 runs in the series, 2 in each game. You're going to win a lot of games when you're only giving up 2 runs a game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they've been able to do. Baltimore looked like a young team playing in the playoffs after a week off. And there's also an emotional blow too. They don't have, because Batista is not, and he's not going to be there next year either because of Tommy John surgery. That is a blow to any team emotionally when they're playing, especially when you lose the first game. You're like, oh boy, this isn't good. Texas is a team that has a great offense. And we all know that great offense can slump because there are certain stretches. That's why they didn't win the division. The offense at times slumped, but then the offense would resurrect itself. Well, as luck would have it, the offense resurrected itself. And as Nathan Eovaldi, who is, by the way, a guy that thrives in postseason play.
He's good.
Well, what did I say to Scott yesterday on the podcast? I said, every time I hear somebody say, oh, it's just like, a challenge just like a regular season. It's like, who are you trying to convince, me or you? Right? Guys like Eovaldi, Zach Wheeler, they don't talk like that. They talk about, hey, look, this is what I need to do, and they take it as a matter of fact way of going about their business. And it makes a big difference because they're pretty much the coolest cats out there. They don't get rattled by anything. They stick with their game plan. They understand what they want to do, why they want to do it. And because they're, at least externally, calm, cool, and collected, they're able to execute what they're trying to do. They're not trying to overthrow it, not trying to overthink it, not trying to overpitch it. And that does make a big difference. We're seeing that in Sewald, the closer for the D-backs. He doesn't overthink it. Right? Is he a 99-mile-per-hour pitcher that comes out of the bullpen and blows you away? No. Yeah, he mixes 88 to 92, 93, and he has a plan as to what to do. And now back to Texas. Bruce Bochy's the manager. He has rings.
He's been around the block a couple times.
He knows how to handle the emotions of this situation. He is not sitting in that Texas dugout with his stomach churning. At least I don't think he is.
I would assume not.
Well, you know what? Everybody's built differently, though, Kyle. Vince Lombardi, right? The great Vince Lombardi. Joe Paterno told me he, and Joe really held Lombardi in the highest regard. And Joe was talking to Lombardi right before a preseason game. And Lombardi was telling him, like, he said, oh, yeah, the nerves inside me. He said, well, it's a preseason game. He said, no, every game I get. So some people are like that. then once the game starts. But you look at how it's played out to this point. Now, the Harper thing on the home runs.
Oh, boy. Arcia really poked the bear.
Well, what the Braves are saying is that the clubhouse is a sanctuary. Now, I don't know who heard him say this, but if the reporters were in there at the time, it's no sanctuary. It's open. The only thing that Harper did I didn't like is don't get the home plate and slash your throw. Don't do that, okay? Events of the past 5 days mean you have to be smart enough to stay away from stuff like that.
Yeah.
But Harper is one of those guys that okay, lights are the brightest, he's ready to go. But he plays hard all the time anyway.
That's who he is.
And now the question is going to be, now this will be one tonight, where Rob Thompson is going to have to potentially be clever with his staff. Ranger Suarez, I was surprised in game one he took him out when he did.
Mm-hmm.
But it turned out that when he went to the bullpen, they produced. Okay. Right? So let's give. I questioned it when he did it, going, "It's a little early. It's the fourth inning." I mean, he's doing all right to me. And just like when somebody says, "Well, they sent Wheeler out for the seventh," I'd have sent Wheeler out for the seventh. Why not? You have to put out the person that gives you the best chance. Well, geez, he's got a 6-inning resume that tells me he's going to give me a pretty good chance here. Well, it turned out he did give up the home run to Darnell. What? That's not going to happen? I don't think it happened because it was the seventh inning.
It just
happened because Darnell.
Good players make good plays.
Yeah. A concept in analytics that they don't quite grasp. That sometimes the other guy does something right. It's only because he was in the seventh inning. He was the third time through the order. It's like, no, like how about he's a good player.
It's like sometimes you'll see an interception will have been thrown by a player, and you'll say, "Oh, the quarterback made a bad throw," and it's like, no, the ball just deflected off 5 players' hands and ended up in a guy's arms somehow.
Or the receiver ran the wrong route.
Yeah. Like, how can you say the quarterback did something wrong when he did literally everything right he should do, and it was a great throw, and it just got intercepted? It happens.
I mean, you'll see a quarterback look at the receiver like this. Well, why is he looking at him like that? Because he may have run it 5 yards too shallow.
5 yards too long. Million things.
Or could have rounded the route. And when you round the route, guess what happens? You become exponentially easier to cover because now the safety or the corner can take just a nice, easy angle because you rounded the route off. There's a lot of things that come into play. Or sometimes you just make a bad throw.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes that happens. You make a bad throw. And then there's the Astros. Yeah, 7th straight year in the league championship series. The defending world champions. Same old Maldonado behind the plate, is a great defensive player. Excellent bunter, by the way. After bunting, his offense goes straight down. Abreu did not play well this year. Now in the postseason, he finally gets to postseason, and he's thriving. Like, okay, where'd that come from? Altuve's Altuve. Right? He gets booed everywhere because he takes the brunt of everything that happened over time. The Pena kid at shortstop was the LCS and World Series MVP last year. Bregman's been around the block 1,000 times.
Yordan Alvarez is a monster.
Alvarez is, to me, usually one of the 5 players, if he's healthy the entire time, one of the 5 players that usually is in the MVP conversation. McCormick is way better than people realize, and I am a big Tucker guy. I think Kyle Tucker is a fabulous defensive player. I think he's a fabulous hitter. And I said to a Yankee fan, I said, there are times I'd rather have Tucker than Aaron Judge. He goes, oh, no. I said, excuse me, over 2 things. Tucker, A, plays, and doesn't sit out for months. And 2, in the postseason, Tucker hits.
That he does.
I said, your guy is a .214 career hitter in the postseason. I said, you can build him up all you want. I said, but guess what? When the lights are the brightest, so I have said about Clayton Kershaw for years, if you gave me a choice in Game 7 between Clayton Kershaw and John Lester, I would pick John Lester. John Lester is not going to the Hall of Fame. But, gee, let's look at John Lester's postseason experience and the closeout games, things like he's outstanding. Right? Now, is he a Hall of Fame pitcher? No. But he seems to handle this moment better than the guy that is an automatic Hall of Famer. And Kershaw is an automatic Hall of Famer. Some guys handle it better. I mean, to be honest with you, Verlander has been great in the postseason except the World Series. He has not pitched well in the World Series. He finally got his first World Series win last year. Some guys handle it better. And a lot of the Astros handle it really well. I mean, they reacquired Verlander. They pitched Urquidy yesterday, who had done nothing all year. And pitches great. Right?
Yep. Confidence in the players who need it.
Right? They got the kid that threw the no-hitter, Framber Valdez, who's always good. And their bullpen is terrific. I mean, you're telling me Presley is the top guy? I mean, I would never have picked him years ago to be the closer for anybody. Hey, and guess what? He acts like it's nothing. And the same thing with Javier. They're just a loaded team that is well put together. They lose Carlos Correa, they replace him with Pena. Okay. And they go about their business. It's no big deal. Right? Michael Brantley, pros pro as a player. Tucker's a pros pro. McCormick's a pros pro. They got a lot of guys that just go about their work. And
you know who the Astros are? This is the best comparison you can make to them, to any team. They're the Patriots. It's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
There's the one guy everyone dislikes, Brady and Altuve. Yeah. They just keep getting back to the same place every single year.
Yeah.
Patriots and Astros. They just get the job done. These guys come in who you're like, you shouldn't be there, and then they do, and then they're awesome. And they replace this guy who was great, a Correa, with a Pena. Like how the Patriots replaced Wes Welker with Edelman. Where it's just like, come on, stop.
Except for Correa, they really kept their core group together, which is the key to doing this. Now, there are teams that have made choices on keeping the core group together, and it didn't work out. And the Phillies happen to be one of them. Let's keep the core group together. Utley, Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, Roy Halladay,
Cliff
Lee, all right, and Cole Hamels. Well, what you don't count on is Ryan Howard blowing out his Achilles, which takes forever to come back from. It's not easy. Utley got hurt. Rollins' skills started to diminish. I mean, they made the right choices, but the right choices have to pay off by continuing, because you're rolling the dice that their performances are going to get better and they're not going to get hurt. And so but the Astros have kept their core group together, and their core group, except for Correa, they've kept their core group together, and they have built around that core group.
When will it end, Steve? When will it end?
Well, Texas will be interesting again because of the offense. If the Astros pitching is outstanding in the series, they will win the series in 5. And this is now a best of 7. The LCS will be a best of 7. It will not be a best of 5. If the offense shows up for Texas, and they have quite the offense, well, now it becomes fireworks in a 6 or 7 game series, and which bullpen can hold the fort at the end.
And I think this is an understated part of this series, is that these teams don't really have to travel that far.
No.
So it is going to help a lot in terms of the rest, the travel, the wear and tear on your body. Like, they don't have to go that far.
Nope.
I'm guessing they might pay a quick jaunt over a jet, or they'll bus there or whatever. They've got options now.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a fun one.
Oh, they'll fly.
They'll fly, but it's not going to be a 3-hour flight to and from. It's going to be a quick half hour up and down.
Just so you know, Texas is huge.
I know it's huge, but still, it's not like you're flying across from east to west coast.
I got it.
Yeah.
I did 2 games in El Paso once.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I drove into Juarez. Right. Because I just wanted to see it. So I drove in. All right. I told my mother later, she says, "What did you do that for?" I'm like, "Oh, well, Mom, I'm still standing here. It worked out." But I was in El Paso. You know what they told me? This is how big Texas is. They're 738 miles away from Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
They're 820 miles away from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
In the same state.
Mm-hmm.
Big state.
It's a very big state. That it is.
You can use that on trivia night.
So kind. You're so kind to me.
You can use that on trivia night.
Do you know?
You can impress the table beforehand and tell them that.
Do you know the distance between the Texas Rangers and Houston Astros? The exact distance?
The exact distance?
Give me your best guess.
Between Houston and Arlington, I will say it is 470 miles.
231 miles.
That's it.
It's about
not bad.
Yeah, not terrible. It's about a 3 to 4 hour drive.
There you go.
Not awful.
They're not driving.
They're not driving, but that's the point, is that like they don't have to go that far. That's going to help both teams. And I really hope, it sounds bad. I hope the Rangers win. I really just want them to win. I don't like seeing the Astros win, Steve. I really don't.
There are a lot of people that don't. The Astros, because of the scandal a few years ago, have put themselves into that. You mentioned the Patriots. Well, they put them into that Patriots mode. Spygate, Brady,
Deflategate,
Belichick, Deflategate. All right, a lot of gates. All right, as somebody who was alive for Watergate, and there's a segment, and this is how you build a TV rating, which I've talked about before. TV rating is built around casual fans. The diehards are always there, no matter what. Right? Both the Saints fans are always there.
Both. Wow. You thought I wouldn't catch that.
I slip it under the radar.
Okay.
Right. The diehards are always there. Now can you get the casual fan interested? Why, for example, do you see them putting the Super Bowl on Nickelodeon as a supplement? You know, it's primarily going to be on CBS, but why? They're trying to get young kids excited about it. Why is the Taylor Swift thing worked out so well for the NFL with her attending games to watch Travis Kelce? Because she's not bringing an audience with her that they're desperately trying to cultivate. Right? So they're not discouraging it. But it's the casual fan that makes it up. Well, the casual fan gets engaged in 2 ways. One, God, I love the Patriots. I love Tom Brady. Oh, Brady's the greatest. I love the Astros. Altuve's so exciting.
Said no one ever.
Right? And then you have another segment of the audience. I hope the Patriots in their game today crash and burn, don't score a point. Brady gets sacked 20 times and down go the Patriots. I hope the Astros get shut out. In fact, no hit. That'd be great. That's why I'm watching. I don't want to see a hit. No base runners. Perfect game. To converge to then give you a big rating. And that's how it happens because you have polarizing teams, and the Patriots have been a polarizing franchise. The Astros are a polarizing franchise. Hey, do you think in 2019 America sat there and was like, oh my God, I'm a Washington Nationals fan? No. They were rooting for the Nationals because they were playing the Astros.
Yes.
Right? And
as someone who did that, I agree.
And so, I mean, there are a lot of people spraining ankles, jumping on that Washington Nationals bandwagon in 2019.
Steve, I know I hurt my legs a few times, but it's not nice to mention me in this category, even though I was in this category. I remember being in the gym watching the Nationals win. It was quite glorious.
That just tells me that maybe my analysis has something to it.
There's a little truth in that.
So, but that's, and that's how it plays out. And it's part of the fun of it because it does pull the emotional part. Now, do the Texas Rangers make you emotional? No. Do the Arizona Diamondbacks make you emotional? No. All right? Now, Harper and the Phillies might make you emotional. The Braves might make you emotional, but the Astros definitely do.
Very much
I
so.
mean, emotional one way or the other. Yeah, I love them. This is great. 7 straight years in the play. Great, Right? And then you get to the people like, I can't stand there, a bunch of cheaters. Hey, where's your trash can?
Oh, boy. I want to ask you, change of subject here, about the Broncos defense. Because I know.
We're off the hate train?
We're off the hate train for now.
Okay, just checking.
This is a different type of hate train, but
Cool.
The Broncos defense.
Yeah.
So, of course, they have not had a great season this year. I believe the number 70 comes to mind when you think of that and how they've played so far. But alongside that, they have made a bunch of different just releases and trades of guys and just getting rid of players who you'd assume would be good. So Randy Gregory, they signed last year for a 3-year, like $70 million deal. Gone.
But I was never a Randy Gregory guy. He's had too many off the field problems where he's not out there playing.
Yeah. But him, gone. Just signed a new deal for them. Frank Clark, he's now out the door as well. They're either going to release him or try and trade him immediately. And they got rid of course, Bradley Chubb last year.
Right.
And a lot of people were picking them to one of the best teams in the NFL. And everyone was saying their defense is not really that great. Yeah, they have a pretty decent defensive back group of Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons, and Pat Surtain II. That's pretty good.
Not bad.
But outside of them, who do you got on that defense right now?
The reason they're releasing people is that they don't know what to do. They are, first of all, they made a bad trade with Russell Wilson.
Bad's an understatement.
And a trade which was universally lauded. And look, I'm one of those people that sat there when, wow, this is great. I mean, Russell Wilson with Denver, I think after all the other guys they've had go through,
The receiver core, the offense they've got.
They had Jerry Jeudy. At one point, they had KJ Hamler. I'm going, tight ends.
They had a pretty decent defense at that point. They had Chubb, Surtain. They just drafted this overall roster of craziness.
Yep. And so you thought with the acquisition of Wilson. Well, now with the acquisition of Wilson has done two things. Number one, they have not even remotely upgraded the quarterback position. His decision-making is not great, and the key to Russell Wilson playing in Seattle was his movement, and he doesn't move well anymore with an offensive line that you need to move with. Doesn't have an offensive line that can make what he wants to do pay off, and he can't make it pay off. So that's one. Now let's get to how do you replace all the other players that you need to replace? Well, you'd love to do it through the draft. Can't do that. Gave up so much draft capital to get him. Seattle's the team sitting there saying, hey, bring it on. We're in good shape here. And when you make trades like that, I mean, you are at that point risking the next 5 years on a player with your draft capital that doesn't allow you to recover. Cleveland is in this same boat because of what they did with Deshaun Watson. And the Watson one made no sense to me.
Still makes no sense.
Made no sense to me. So you have now two franchises in two, not just good, but I mean legitimately great football cities. Denver is a great football city. Cleveland is a great football city. I know Pittsburgh fans don't want me to say that, but it's a reality. All right, they are. Have they won? Have they been to the Super Bowl? No, they have not been to the Super Bowl. All right, and we've been to six. Whether the Steelers been to 8, 9. Okay, and okay, that's fine. You've been to Super Bowls. You have a great fan base, which, by the way, is booing your football team right now because for the first time in a while they're not very good. And they're 3-2. I'm totally baffled how that team is 3-2.
I think everyone is.
But that doesn't mean Cleveland's not a great football team. It's harder to sell out when you're treading water all the time and going nowhere. It's easy to be on the gravy train and be at Acrisure Stadium because you're going to the playoffs all the time. When your biggest complaint is we can't win a playoff round, right? Cleveland's over there saying we'd love to be in a playoff round. And yet their fans keep showing up. That's why for years, this is pre-Robert Kraft, pre-Belichick. I would tell people all the time, I say, you know who has the best single fan base in New England? Right? I said, the Red Sox sell out, the Celtics sell out, the Bruins sell out. I said, you know the best one is? The Patriots. They've given them, this is pre-Belichick, they've given them nothing to root for since 1960, and those people show up.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't have a stadium for a long time, for goodness sakes. Right? They played at Harvard Stadium, they played at BU, they played at Fenway Park. Right?
They almost moved them to Connecticut.
Well, yeah, Kraft is the one that because
but still, that was part of
it. The Massachusetts legislature, right, was the problem. Kraft built that stadium with his own money. The stadium, Patriot Place, that's Kraft's money. He did not take any state money. The only thing he asked for, this is why he threatened to go to Connecticut, I need $72 million from the state for infrastructure. Okay. Like, who's in charge of the roads? Is Kraft supposed to pay $72 million for the roads? No. Okay. It's a state project, a Commonwealth project. All right? And the House Speaker, who had a lot of power in Massachusetts at the time, by the name of Tom Finnernan, I know it's an illness. Right. Had the ability to block such things. We're not going to do that. So then he got with Governor Rowland of Connecticut, and they're going to build a stadium in Hartford. There was a steam plant on the property. Okay, I'm the governor of Connecticut. I've got that steam plant out by nighttime. Right? Okay, guys, bulldoze it. Start now. In fact, I'll run the bulldozer. Right? Couldn't move it. Right? Danced around, and finally Finnernan, when they said, "Crap, he's serious." Okay, they get the $72 million. Kraft stayed there because what he wanted was Route 1 to have off of I-95. He wanted Route 1 to be like 5 lanes coming in, 5 lanes going out. Well, gee, right? Does it make sense in a small town like Foxborough to have something like that so you can move traffic in that? Yep. All right. But that's all he asked for, right? And that's where the Patriots were for years. I mean, when they built Schaefer Stadium, which then became Sullivan Stadium, it was the cheapest stadium you could possibly build. I mean, I worked games in that stadium. Penn State played BC a couple times in that stadium. It was concrete bleachers and we're done. That's all it was. It cost them like $5 million to build the thing in 1970, which was even then nothing. We have to have something or else the league's going to make us move. And the Patriots almost moved to St. Louis at one point. Jim Ortwine tried to buy them. So he finally comes up with this thing. But they were the loyal fans all through this time of nothing. Nomads, can't find the right stadium. Now we're in Foxborough. It's kind of closer to Providence. And they hung in there. So that back to Cleveland. They have great fans. And they do this Watson's deal. And the Watson thing is bad on several fronts. Okay? Number one, we all know the issues he's had. That's one. Which then, two, is a backhand to every husband and father in the locker room. Which is also a backhand to every husband, father, family that goes to Cleveland Browns games. All right? Now we get to the football part. Diminished skills, followed up by losing draft capital to do this, And last but not least, a guaranteed contract.
It doesn't happen.
Where they jerry-rigged the contract in such a way where the first year where he was suspended for 11 games, he got a $1 million salary. Oh, and then it jumps up to like
40-something.
Yeah, right, over the top. By acquiring one guy, they as an organization made every mistake you can possibly think of.
Mm-hmm.
Denver, in acquiring Russell Wilson, now again, I was very critical of the Watson deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, I was praising the Russell Wilson deal, not really realizing how much his skills had diminished. I'm watching the first couple of games last season. I'm going, that he looks fat, and he looks like he can't move, and it was bad. And now you look at them, their ability to recover is going to take a long time because they don't have the quarterback. I'm watching Brock Osweiler on Sunday Night Football thinking he might be better.
Oh, no.
On Saturday Night Football.
Oh,
Dave
not Brock. Don't bring Brock back into this.
He actually did the USC game the other night, the USC-Arizona game. He did that game with Dave Fleming. And it's one of the few times you'll see Dave Fleming like being the shorter guy in the booth. Because I've met Dave a couple of times.
Yeah.
Dave's a tall guy.
Brock's, 6'8", I think.
6'8", and Fleming's like 6'4", 6'5". I mean, Dave's a good-sized guy. But you don't have the quarterback. You've lost draft capital. You have an aging roster in some areas. And it's going to take them a long time to get back.
Yeah.
They're going to have to be clever as to how they do this. And you just can't keep doing it with retreads.
Mm-hmm. You know what I've thought about a little bit? So the first part of this is the Russell part of it in Seattle. That for years, all of these issues that I guess happened in Seattle with him being a poor teammate and all these things were all covered up. We didn't hear about almost any of this stuff at all.
And Pete Carroll has the ability to do that.
Pete Carroll did that. John Schneider did that. Nothing got out about how bad of a teammate he was. Yeah. All these things about him having his own locker and or his own office, whatever. Right. Nothing got out. Right. And then as soon as he got here, all of a sudden you see Richard Sherman and Marshawn Lynch and everyone else being like, we didn't like him. No one did. Right. He did the job we needed him to, but none of us had respect for him or anything. And now you see it in Denver with these teammates calling him out for the past few seasons. Yeah. And it's like, this is bad. And the second part of it is that the pairing of Russell Wilson and Sean Payton was one that the Saints fans wanted to have happen. I wanted it to happen as a Saints fan.
Right, going to New Orleans.
It made the most sense because Breeze for years got compared with Russell Wilson. The two of them got compared for being 6 foot, 5'11", the talent they had, the quick release, all of this stuff. Right. So it makes sense pairing wise.
Sure. Yeah, I remember it.
But it also doesn't make sense because they're not the exact same person. And they don't play the same way. They don't think the same way. They're not the same person as in terms of being a teammate. That's the big part of it. Is Sean Payton had Drew Brees, who was by all means a pretty great guy for years. Teammates loved him. Everything was great. It was all sunshine and rainbows.
I talked to Michael Motti because Motti was on the Saints. And Mike told me that, Brees is a great guy. He and his wife have given a lot of money back to Purdue. And he'd say, Mike says, I was in the facility in Metairie, which I've been to, by the way. It's actually pretty nice.
Oh, Oceaner is beautiful.
Yeah, right. And he said it was the day before we were going to play. It was noon. And he was out there simulating every play alone, simulating every play that they had in the game plan that week. And he did that every single week. That's how meticulous his preparation was. Tells you a lot about him. When nobody's watching, that's one of those, when nobody's watching, that's when you know who really has the depth of care and passion. With Seattle, so let's go back to the Patriots. What are the Patriots have been famous for when they were really good? Right now, they're not a good football team. Patriots as an organization, when they were on top, had the ability to, for the most part, understand the shelf life of their players. Back to the old Bill Walsh quote with Randy Cross, you have 5 years remaining in the league. I only want you 2 really good ones. Okay? Well, the Patriots had that ability. Darrelle Revis, boom, hey, he's still got it. They play him, boom. As soon as they feel Darrelle Revis is falling off, okay, hey, thanks so much. Thanks for helping us win a Super Bowl. We appreciate you. Move on. All the wide receivers they've run through there, all the running backs they've run through, they've understood for the most part, not always, but shelf life on players as to when their skills are starting to now take that slide just a bit. John Snyder and Pete Carroll, before their very eyes, could see the slide that was happening with Russell Wilson before any of us saw it. And they said, let's strike while the iron's hot because his skills are diminishing. And I give them credit for understanding that because they have now set their franchise up for years to come. With draft capital, it's going to make a big difference.
Do you know who they ended up getting? Because the entire Russell Wilson trade has been completed.
Yeah.
They ended up getting Charles Cross, first-round pick, offensive lineman, not half bad.
Yep.
Devin Witherspoon,
really good.
Pretty darn good. Boy Mafe, Derek Hall.
Boy Mafe out of Minnesota is a good player.
Stellar.
Yep.
Noah Fant and Drew Lock and a few other players as well in there.
Right.
They got a good haul. They got the players in spots they needed with Charles Cross and Witherspoon and Mafe, who are three stellar players.
Yep.
Fant's not a bad tight end.
No.
Drew Lock is a pretty good backup to have.
He did a fine job. Yeah.
They hit everywhere they needed to in this trade. And then in this, they cleared space for Geno Smith, who has been amazing. And they cleared space for Kenneth Walker to be a star running back. And everything else has been working.
They drafted Walker with their own pick. And when they drafted Walker, Jack and I were like, that's a pretty savvy pick. This guy's a good player. Because all those players that transferred into Michigan State, some of them were very good. He was exceptional. And like, okay. And he was exceptional, to his credit.
They have a star-studded team now because of this. Like, they have built themselves to be a great team, the Seahawks. Because that same year, or this past draft, they took Jackson Smith and Jigba, 20th overall, because they have the first pick they had in that draft for Witherspoon.
Well, here's the issue they have. They're good enough to make the playoffs, but San Francisco's in their division.
I would say they have the buzzsaw that is the Niners.
But they have passed out the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams roster is now getting older. They're not as competitive as they were 2 years ago. They passed them out. Arizona, let's give Jonathan Gannon credit. Josh Dobbs is their starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they aren't going to the playoffs. They're going to finish under 500. But guess what? They're way better than I thought they were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Way better. Let's give credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
But you have to every Penn State player I talk to about playing in the pros, the subject always comes up, and sometimes I'm the one that brings the subject up about it being a business. And why do you see players come back all the time to colleges? All the time. I mean, we see all the former college players, their bye week, they come here, right? So the opening game of the season, Micah Parsons is here. Saquon Barkley's here. And Pat Fryermuth stopped by the broadcast. He was here. You start going through the long list of guys. And that's the way it is at a lot of college campuses because in the end, to them, this was actually the best time of their life.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Gesicki of the Patriots loves coming back here. Because, again, this was the best time of their life. The pros are not the best time of their life. It is a job. It is a business. And yes, you love winning, but the business part sucks the life out of you. Just sucks the life out of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's why we need to really appreciate what we're seeing on Saturdays when you see the Penn States, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the USCs, and the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Texas, Oklahoma, the long list of, Notre Dame. I love football, as you know.
Really?
But that doesn't mean there's not bad football being played. Right? And you look at, it's fun to go out to a high school game on a Friday night. And I mean, it's been a couple of years since I've been to a high school game because,
A little busy.
Well, a little busy, and sometimes you just want to watch the game.
Mm-hmm. You get recognized, Steve? What are you talking about?
Okay. Sometimes you just want to watch the game.
Just put on a mustache. Put on a Clark Kent or something like that. You'll be good.
Well, last time I went to a State I game, they said, why don't you stand on the sideline? This is State I. They couldn't have been any better to me.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Weekland, Lauren Crispell, he says, if you go on the sideline, you'll be fine. I said, okay. So I watched from the sideline, which was phenomenal. And it was a good game, well played, and the whole thing. But there'll be a lot of other high school games that you go to where it's not great football, or at least on one side of the ball, not great football. And that's why, for example, I'll give you an example here, Kyle.
Oh, we're getting specific now.
Yeah, no, I am going to get specific about it. And the reason is that I can give you scores. You have a lot of games, right? This is last Friday night, and this will be, I'm using WKOK's scoreboard here. Okay? Mifflinburg beat Shikellamy 42-12. Selinsgrove beat Central Mountain 49-14. Okay? Now, Loyalsock beat Lewisburg 28-14. Not a bad game.
Mm-hmm.
Warrior Run beat Midwest 42-7. Jersey Shore, which has gone through hell and back, beat Shamokin 42-7. Southern Columbia beat Central Columbia 54-7. Lime Mountain beat Halifax 50-14. Mount Carmel beat Hughesville 54-14.
Noticing a bit of a trend here.
Danville beat Monroeville, or excuse me, beat Montoursville 56-0. Where's the good games? Now, you finally do get Milton beating Bloomsburg 38-19. I don't know. For all we know, it could have been 38-7, and they came back. I don't know how it played out. And Commonesque Valley beat Columbia Montour Votech 34-27. All right, so you finally get a couple of games. But that's last week.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, blowout, 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 blowout. I mean, they're all right in a row. That's a blowout, right? That's a blowout. I mean, almost all the games are, and I've been noticing this trend for years. So now back to my point about the major powers at Penn State and the ability to bring in as much talent as you can. Because these guys play at a high level. And they get into high level games against other high level talent.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, I mean, that this is just one region.
Yeah.
Here. Now, and it's not as if, for example, I mean, Julian Fleming was at Southern Columbia.
Yeah.
Penn State will see him next week. So it's not like that area hasn't produced some college guys. I mean, Brandon Smith, not the one with the Carolina Panthers, but the linebacker who picked off the last play of the Fiesta Bowl when Dante Pettis tried to lateral it. Right? Brandon Smith was not going to be a pro player, but he was going to be a really good college player. Well, he's from that area as well. He's from Winfield. But you have to appreciate like how high a level you're actually watching here because they're able to take, right? Because unfortunately, there's really not some great high school football out there, right? Now you've got some really good teams, and it shows up in the state championship games and things like that. But you got a lot of matchups like that on a Friday night. I wish that didn't happen. I'd like to see, hey, 24, 21, 21, 17, something, right? 31-30, like a lot of drama. I was watching a game on TV between Southern Columbia and Danville. And no. It looked like the field was tilted like this. Like, okay. I mean, they got a first down and they stopped the game for a parade. It's like, that's not good. And so it's amazing how you're able to get the best athletes, and then you get to see them on this level playing. And by the way, participation in high school football across the country is up 7% since the pandemic, that's great because they've been declining for such a long time. But we have to appreciate like the level of talent we're seeing, because each level whittles down the talent pool, the NFL being, of course, the highest level of it. And, we talk about a Russell Wilson who was terrific in the league for a long period of time. But now the personnel around him isn't great. He's not helping them. His skills have diminished. He doesn't have a defense that can bail him out. Tonight's game is going to be, oh, God. That's why the Phillies and Braves will be on my TV set.
Yes.
I don't think, as much as I respect Al, and as much as I personally like Kirk, no.
I will be watching a different show, some variety I find on a streaming service tonight. That's what I will be doing.
I see.
Yes. Sadly, will not be watching this game.
No.
It's going to be tough. And as we've said now multiple times, Seattle truly made out like bandits, as we're now all seeing. That you praised it, many of us praised it as saying, this seems like a great deal. Especially after the Watson deal, it was like, oh, they're not giving up that much for him.
But you felt like they were getting the guy that was going to take them to the promised land. That this was their 2020s version of acquiring Peyton Manning.
Yes. And now it makes me wonder, just like, what is the process Seattle has where they keep everything under wraps? Like, how good were they at doing that? Like, that's truly, for years, we'd only heard like good things about everything going on there. And to have all of this not covered up, but like not reach the media sphere, where now you've got Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all these places where you'd expect something to leak. Nothing did. None of these players talked about it. Marshawn Lynch never did it. None of the receivers ever mentioned it ever. No one ever talked about it.
I think Pete Carroll deserves some credit for that.
Major credit for that.
And it's also the Seattle market, with all due respect. It's not Los Angeles or New York. It's not Chicago. Dallas is a feeding frenzy when it comes to everything the Cowboys do.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean in Seattle they aren't the big show. I mean, they are. But when people talk about Seattle, they're not talking about the Mariners or the Seahawks or the Kraken. People have been talking about some of the external and internal struggles the city has had. That's actually been more of a focal point, which actually kind of allows the sports teams to fly under the radar a little bit. But I'm anxious to see. I've never been to Seattle, so I'm anxious to do a game at the University of Washington.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. So,
go to the original Starbucks, maybe?
Something tells me whatever hotel we're in will not be near the original Starbucks.
Go to the fish market, the famous one out there.
Again, we don't know. I know this is hard to grasp.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But no, I've had people ask the same thing. You can go out and do certain things. Okay. For example, I already have dinner set up next Friday night. It's my host, so I'm the one that set it up. I set it up last week. So we'll be able to get out Friday night to a dinner. But the game's at noon next week. You get in at 3:30 in the afternoon. You have more time when it's the Big Ten tournament.
Because you're there forever.
Well, it turned out this past year we were. We got in on a Wednesday night, and we didn't leave till Sunday. Now, I've been to Chicago a lot, so I know where to go, what to do. I mean, so we knew where we wanted to go. We also had games every day, too. I do a game Thursday, I do a game Friday, I do a game Saturday. So you have to get ready for them. So you're able to at least go out, find a place to eat, something like that. And even the last night we were there, we ate in the hotel at Shula's, which is a great steakhouse, but that's where we ate. A bowl game, you have time. And we were there for a couple days. Jack and I went to practices, ended up Learfield hosted a dinner at Mastro's in Beverly Hills, which was great, which we've been to before, so it's not. Right. So you can do that, but when it's a regular season game, you literally are in and you are out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a business trip. Right? You get there at 3:30 in the afternoon, you can get dinner. That's sort of it for the socialization. Boom. Okay, play the game, get up in the morning, go to the game, game's over, get back in the bus, go back to the airport, get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a business trip. So there's not a lot of time. Let's go sightseeing. Don't have time. Like the sightseeing is on the bus going up to the hotel. Hey, look, there's the fish market. Saw it. There's the Space Needle. Cool, saw it.
Not a big sightseer, Steve, but that's okay.
No, I'm saying, but they're business trips. That's the extent. That's how you see it. You don't get there and go, hey, let's go out. We don't have any time.
Mm-hmm. Steve is all business here on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.